I didn't do it properly, but I wanted to shout out Tiffany Coles because
You want to shout it out real quick? I'm still
yeah, if
recording.
you want to add it,
Yeah,
she
I'll add
has
it
this
down.
really dope organization, Bosses Give Back. Um, and it's really dope. I feel like we got really close when we kind of worked on TU Music Biz, right? Shout her out.
Shout
She's
out to Tiffany.
such a leader, such an amazing woman, always repping for her community and just like always trying
Tiffany
to
is
help
so
other
cool.
people out.
What's up, everybody? This is Teyanna Stone, and you are listening to Tea with Tea right now. You're watching Tea with Tea right now. Today's episode is really special because I have a very, very dear friend and very, very close person to me. Her name is Becky. And yeah, Becky, tell everybody what you're into real quick.
Well, thanks, T. Thanks for letting me join today.
Thank you for coming.
You want me to just tell a little bit about myself, or?
Yeah. Tell the people what you're into.
Well, right now, there's a lot going on for sure. A lot of just injustice is happening around the world and the country. A lot of conversations being had, like the ones, we've been having and are going to have. But for me and for you, music is a huge part of my life. I'm an intern at Milk Boy, the studio here in Philly. Haven't been there in a minute because of a lot of stuff happening, but that's a lot of where I've learned, a lot of skill sets I've had and like opportunities that I've had in the industry, specifically in Philly. Yeah, being a Temple student as well with you is definitely interesting. Senior year during this pandemic, but a little bit about me. I'm a student and do like production and engineering. We could probably dive more into it if you want to talk more. But
yeah. So, what would you say is your field of expertise when it comes to the music scene?
I'd say like I'm one of those people that I like everything. I'm always like,
same.
You like theater and like film, and we all kind of, when you're in music, everything stems, like anything entertainment or arts related, it kind of like stems from that. So I grew up I loved TV, film, media, like everything. My parents were like, she's obsessed. And I don't think they realized literally the the path I would go in is just fully revolved around that. But I feel like skills that I mainly find myself wanting to improve more on are engineering, mixing, producing. I've kind of started just like producing for fun because I was really interested in picking up instruments as a kid. But now it's kind of a job a career path. So I have been, at home, especially in quarantine. I was just learning as much as I could, soaking up as much information as I could. So yeah, engineering, production is definitely where I find myself. These are the skills. I'm going to try to get better at them every day.
Cool. So like, even, I guess we can kind of dive into like quarantine, because like you said, you and me have had like numerous conversations like while in quarantine and trying to figure out what exactly we're supposed to do while in quarantine as music people. And like one of the things I really appreciate about you as one of my good friends is the fact that you're always sharing like awesome connects, awesome information with me and with so many other people too. Because we didn't mention this, but she's also one of the leaders of the music business club at Temple University.
Shout out Temple Music.
Shout out. Yeah. And you're always sharing so much information, and I guess like, what's your mindset in trying to, build your own little community in Philly, or just in general when it comes to the entertainment industry? What's your mindset?
I guess if you mean like mindset coming into these things, I love just bringing people together. And we've talked about this, being woman in music, being woman of color, and like having a space that we feel connected to other people like us or even not like us, feeling like our voices are, met, or our voices are important in the spaces we're at. So luckily in Philly's really dope. There's so many women in music. There, a lot of them are behind the scenes or artists, but there's so many people out here.
Yes.
And of course, it's not just specifically women in music, but that is something that's really important to me. Making sure everyone feels included. So when I share things, I'm always like, this is perfect for this person or for a bunch of people. like I've been finding workshops and I've been sending them over to you because we have similar paths we're kind of going on. And
Becky finds the best stuff to like.
yeah, like recently I found this really dope workshop for women and non-binary, people of color.
Yes.
So I think that was really amazing, and that's the idea, like that I'm passionate about, like inclusivity, like making sure everyone feels included, to be able to learn these skills that at one point, people probably assumed it was just like a male dominated field. So yeah, I would definitely say mindset is always just bringing people like together, never trying to hoard information or like keep it to myself, because there's not really any fun in that or anything beneficial in that, because you could have shared that with somebody else. So
yeah, definitely. So I guess what would you say has been your experience, I mean, being a woman in Philly in the music industry? Because you and me have talked about that like numerous times. Like for me personally, Becky interns at Milk Boy Studios. I intern at the Boom Room Studios, both in Philly. And we've had very interesting experiences. We've learned a lot at both of those, studios, but we've had our differences in terms of experience. So could you dive a little bit into your experience, and then I can go into mine too? Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think my experience was great. I was hired last year by Caitlin, who sadly she's not the manager anymore of Milk Boy, but she's moving on to new things. But she was amazing. I was super new. I'm still really new to the scene. Like not like everyone. I'm very new to the scene, so I was super nervous last year. I can't believe like how kind of far I've come in a sense. Like I'm still going, but so nervous. I did like a call, and like she kind of took a chance on me. I didn't know that much. I kind of maybe let on that I did, or like, what you kind of do, but
yeah,
and kind of as like a little mentee, and I just got into the studio. I was so confused. I used to never step foot in anything. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I just kind of like do my thing, keep my head down, like, but obviously, those things are kind of natural, but, and, most of the people around me were men or like people that are engineers, and they're amazing people. They've helped me, like shout out to the whole Milk Boy engineering team. They're really amazing. They always let me sit in on sessions. I'm very curious. I ask questions even potentially when they're not the right time. But my curiosity and like my just like always wanting to figure out how this thing works or how does this sleeve work or whatever. I've been able to sit in on some really dope sessions. And those people have allowed me to like come back to the next, like they kind of remembered me, not that I did anything special, but they were like, oh yeah, that intern, and that's a cool space to be, because I know many people have that experience, especially women in a studio space. It can be intimidating. It could feel uncomfortable. There have been times where I may have felt uncomfortable, but it's not because anybody like on the team or anything. It's just like usually I'm the only one that might look like me in like the behind the scenes situation versus just like, like friends that are at the studio hanging around, like, like I was always, like running around doing cables and stuff. But not gonna lie, the experience has been really great, and they're really helpful for me in my journey. But how about you? You were saying like,
yeah. So for me, I feel like it's been a little bit of the same. For the most part, I think I have been the only one who has looked like me. Yeah. Not too many times, but there have been some times. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, I don't think to my disadvantage, because I mean, the scene is changing, and it's this thing where like, we're banding together and we're making our own impact in Philly and in the industry in general. So that's really cool. With me, I've had experience with whether it be, recording for like a band or rehearsals or recording rehearsals if need be, or, just live events in general also. The funny thing about it is I was actually like doing the live sound for one of these events at the Boom Room, which was like a scheduled thing, but of course COVID kind of messed that up.
Oh, yeah.
But like that's one thing that I really, really love doing, like doing the live mixing sound. And I've really helped out with a few mixes too, and also helping them with their social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, you've done a lot. Like I've talked to you like kind of
Yeah,
do all of it for them, or kind of like you have your hand in different aspects, which is cool to have as an intern for sure.
it is, yeah, because one of the things that COVID definitely is like teaching me is like it's very important to know how to do more than one thing. And
Hmm.
not just in our industry in general, but just in general, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said, I was doing the whole live sound thing, and if I had put all my, put everything I had into live streaming, I mean not live streaming, live sound, and didn't really have anything else lined up, then I would have been like really messed up. So I feel like this quarantine is really teaching us like how to, you know, gain better skills. And yeah, what have you been up to during quarantine?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time I'm hitting people up, I'm like, what have you been up to? Because like now that school started, it's crazy because we're kind of mixing stuff up. But I
Hmm.
mean, during the summer, and shout out to Anton Dottie. He's like a mentor of mine. He's dating like one of my best friends. He's a producer and engineer out in LA.
Hmm.
And I told him I wanted to like get better at mixing, and I'm at home. I kind of have limited technology and like hardware and software. So he gave me a bunch of projects just to work on. I was kind of like his intern, but like online, but remote
Nice.
assisting him, and he just wanted to help me because I wasn't at Milk Boy because they kind of shut down for a minute.
Yeah.
And I was kind of home, and I was like, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And not gonna lie, like I had a lot of people just like support, or if I had questions, people were willing to answer. So he was helping me a lot. So I kind of learned how to better mix. Oop, got the phone. I kind of learned how to better mix, even in headphones or online.
Hmm.
I kind of stepped away from production for a while because I don't know, I wasn't feeling inspired. I was really, the beginning of June, sadly, when George Floyd was murdered, like a lot
Yeah.
of, you know, either people may have felt like they can express themselves through the music, or, um, just like lay low. For me, I know like there's other people that can use their voice and through other things right now. Like I wanted to step back, do what I can, do my part. So like for a while, I remember I just wasn't doing music for like probably a month or two,
Yeah.
until I just recently kind of got back into it. Um, so yeah, production. I feel like I'm always like going around the questions,
Going
but
back and forth. Yeah.
I guess
I
that's how it is. But yeah, so I would say, yeah, I did some production, some mixing. I started interning for Dilemma, who's a producer here.
Nice.
I've been doing like social media stuff for him for Track Meet, which is the producer game show that was like popping right before COVID.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was like a in-person show. It still is. It's just like you're not going to be in person for a while, but
Virtual, yeah.
dope producer game show. Now it's kind of switched on to that Instagram,
Hmm.
space or social media space. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy how things have changed, especially for the entertainment industry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and
It's
we're kind of like still students of it, and we're still like immersing our like getting a full immersion, and it's weird because it's switching right now. So
it really
we're
is.
like last year school, and we're like trying to adjust, trying to get a job potentially or a gig.
Yeah.
Um, like I don't know how it's been for you, like what you've been up to, but
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, um, kind of still in the behind the scenes aspect of things. Um, but for me during the summer, I was really like producing a few things for
yeah.
myself. And yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping to release some stuff soon, but I'm scared.
Yo, I feel that. I think that's like a huge thing. It's like for me, I'm working on stuff too, and it's like you lay low and you're like, am I ready to release this?
Am
Is it
I
mixed
ready to
fully?
release this?
And we're
Yeah.
engineers, so we're trying to
Yeah,
figure out like the perfect EQ in the vocals or whatever. Like,
exactly. Yeah. And just like trying not to put too much pressure on myself either.
yeah,
Because I feel like that's one of the things for me. Like as a producer, I feel like I'm always like able to do what I need to do. But when it comes to like an artist and like trying to do what I need to do for me and my art, I'm like, not to say I've been bad to my art, but I do feel like because the thing that I've been taught is art doesn't necessarily just serve the artist, it serves the audience.
mm,
And I feel like I really haven't had the opportunity to provide the audience with the art. So I'm kind of disgracing the art a little bit
Yeah,
too.
no. But have you
So
felt with expressing yourself through kind of this crazy year? I know it's been a roller coaster of a year, but do you feel like a lot of the music you're making is expressing or reflecting how you might feel, or just kind of like what's surrounding you in a sense?
I feel like it's kind of reflecting on, maybe desperation isn't the right word that I should say, but I want to say desperation. I guess the desperation to, do the things that I want to do. Because, being locked up in these four walls for, what is it, almost 6 months now, I think
Crazy.
it can really put some things into perspective and really, show you who you are and, what you really want and what you really need. Um, and kind of going off on that, just like, our eyes have kind of been open to like what is really a desire and what is really a necessity. And,
True.
the funny thing about it is being in quarantine for 6 months, it's like people still don't, understand the difference between the two. And yeah, it's been a really good journey, but I do have to, serve the art, um, serve my art a little bit more, because I am bringing it to life, but it's only half the aspect. Um,
Mm,
it
half the battle, kind of.
exactly,
Yeah.
and you know, it was funny hearing it like that. I can't remember if I was hearing that in one of my classes. Shout out to Dr. Kamika Williams Witherspoon. I think it was her who said that. She's always dropping gems anyway, so it was probably her. Um, but yeah, just serving the art, because it's not always about us. Because the thing about it is, it's like somebody else might need it just as much as we do, and yeah,
Yeah, art is healing, and like for me, it's been that for sure. And I think like you can have all the skill sets in the world and everything, but if you're not, like what you said, when we're as being producers too, or engineers, you're trying to serve that artist or serve that art that you're working on.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like it's always a higher purpose of what you're doing, or you should strive to make um, your mission always, a greater purpose than just yourself or just like people around you. That's something I really want to be part of, like as someone in part of the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
That, and I feel like even like it's a spiritual thing too. Like
Yes,
it's a higher purpose. For me, I believe like God has a purpose for all of us.
mm-hmm.
Um, and even recently, like sadly with Chadwick Boseman's passing, it's just like you learn
Yes,
he was so aware of he was so aware and present, and he knew what his purpose was.
mm-hmm.
And I know that was a hard loss for a lot of people, especially the Black community too. But
Yes, it was.
yeah,
Like seeing somebody like that, like serve, because like you said, it was like he was not only serving himself and serving the art, he was serving the audience also,
mm,
and that's the level of excellence that I feel like all of us as artists and just creatives in general should strive for, because it's, I mean, at the end of the day, we always want to make sure our bills are paid on time, of course, but if it's not you know giving you that fulfillment, then what exactly is the purpose?
yeah,
And I don't know, I may be going on like a tangent or whatever, but
it's
like,
okay. I feel like it's all good. It's part of the
yeah,
conversation.
part of the conversation. But like, it's like, I guess that's one of the, I don't want to say the downsides, but like people sometimes enter the music industry not realizing the responsibility that it has.
Mm.
Um, you're responsible for the art, and you're also responsible for, the audience. And um, it's not just about you, and it's just not about, being popular. Like the art comes first.
Yeah, that's something I had to learn too. I was like, for me, I don't come from a music background. Not many people know. Not many people in my family have any clue what I'm doing or who I'm working with. Or like sometimes it's kind of really cool people I might be able to see, and they're like, I don't know who this is, which is
Mhm.
humbling because they're like, what are you doing about it? And I had to remember like it's not always about the name. People you can drop like, oh, this person's in the studio, and this person. It's like what you were saying. It's like it's just about like what you're doing to serve the art and what you're doing to make it better for other people like you or like in the space, you know, like sometimes, you know, we like to drop little names, like we did
Oh
this,
yeah.
you know, we did this, or we were working with this person, or I would love to work with this person one day. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, what are we doing to contribute to music overall, I guess? Because a lot of times we say the industry, but it's like overall, because we're pretty new to like the scene too, or at least like kind of
Yeah.
pursuing careers like in the scene.
In the scene.
And being in such a historic city like Philly when it comes to like R&B, soul, and just like music as a whole, it's kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
Into that.
Philly is a really interesting place of music.
A lot of history.
Yeah. It has a ton of history. And the interesting thing about it is I don't think too many people know that.
Yeah, I wish there was actually like a course specifically. We kind of had it for us in our classes for media production.
Yeah.
About Philly soul and like Sigma sound and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so crucial to the industry, like as a whole. I don't know. I feel like
it's very interesting because I always say like, well, I actually say two things because the thing about it is it's like Philly is known for, you know, so many other things. Not to say that those other things aren't important, but I mean the entertainment and the music side of Philly is like extremely crucial to, like you said, the industry and the music, the creation of music itself. And then I always like to tell this story because like when you think about music, you usually think about Los Angeles and New York. And, you know, those cities are extremely important. You know, not to take away from those cities. I would love to go to one of those cities or maybe even both of those cities one day just to, you know, get a vibe for what the music scene is like there. But I was literally, I think it was last year because I think I started working at the Boom Room about like a year or so ago, a little bit more over a year. And I just went on a whim and just typed into like Google Maps and was like studios in Philly. And like all these things came up. And I was like, well, wait a minute, this stuff is here. It's just a matter of, you know, looking for it. And the thing about the community here is that it's very tight knit, and I guess you can maybe even describe it as like underground. You have to like you have to work your way into it. Oh yeah. Because like you said, even like after a year of working at, you know, our respective studios, I still feel like a newbie.
Yeah, because then I learned something. They're like, you didn't know this? I was like, I'm sorry. But especially like being around Milk Boy, you know, it's known for Larry Gold doing strings for The Boy Is Mine, or like all of JT's stuff, all of Kanye's strings. You know, like it's like all these names you hear about. And sometimes I didn't know. I actually learned a lot of that by stepping foot there. So they're like, you didn't know this before? And I was like, I'm sorry.
I didn't know.
It really brings this like perspective on Philly history too. Philly's a very like, if there's one word to describe it, it's like, or not one word, one phrase, it's like you have to do the work yourself kind of thing, like to dig deep, like, or not like you have to do the work, if that makes sense, you know, like if you're a kid growing up in the area, like, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, or in music, it's like you have to like research like crazy, you have to like find it, because it's like it's there. You'll find out some of the greatest producers and every musician have come from Philly, but like you have to kind of like
you have to
the research or find people randomly. Like for me, I met some people and it turns out they were like really, you know, a really dope musician I just didn't know about. So
yeah,
Philly, it's a lot going for Philly. I feel like we're in a good, as we keep this direction going.
Yeah,
a lot going on.
I think the funny thing that I always like to think about in terms of, you know, my career and my futures, I would love to like build a hub here in Philly, just for the arts, because I feel like we, you know, we have the Kimball Center and we have the Wilma Theater and we have, you know, Milk Boy and Boom Room and those things. I guess my aspiration is to kind of like build this sort of like big hub for, you know, just like the community to like, whether it be arts, music, dance, theater, all that good stuff. Because I mean, it's possible here. Because the soil and the foundation is here. It's just a matter of like, you know, getting the tools and working at it.
Yeah, and there's so many amazing people that are willing to mentor people like us too. Like even though we're older now, like, you know, we're in our 20s, like versus there's a lot of young producers and engineers here in Philly and artists that are like 16. And I was like, I wish I was very driven like them.
Yes.
I just think they need to all they need, just need a little boost. But a lot of them are doing it on their own, so props to them. But there's so many people out here trying to, wanting to mentor. So that's why for me, I've been mentored by or helped out by so many dope people here, and I'm sure for yourself.
Yeah.
So like sharing, like we're going back to the idea of connecting people with resources. I feel like that's a no questions asked kind of thing. Like if I get a resource and I find out, I don't want to be like, this is for me. Like I'm just gonna attend this workshop. I'm gonna do this. Like we should always try to be like, oh, there's someone just out here, trying to produce as well. They're trying to get better.
Yeah.
Let me send them this resource. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's possible. It's definitely possible to,
totally.
and it's happened. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I guess now we can maybe dive into a little bit with COVID and how COVID has kind of taken our industry a little bit by storm. I feel like here in Philly, I feel like people are starting to go back to work in terms of get back to the grind and stuff like that. But I guess how do you think COVID has affected or is continuing to affect what you do personally?
It definitely affected from the beginning. I just felt that because I was very I was going out a lot of, even for us, if we were students, we were going out to events.
Yes.
I was going to more networking events. I was finally getting out of my shell, and I was finally feeling comfortable, being in Milk Boy or at a studio and feeling like I can to have control over a session. But then as things were happening, COVID was a very so unknown. Everyone was super scared. They thought it was everyone was gonna die at one point. They just shut down everything. So
shut down everything.
I went home. It didn't go really out. I remember being at my where I was living around campus for a week, and everyone was just not going out, and they were scared to even go to the grocery stores at one point. Everyone was just it was just a fear. So as soon as I came home, I was really, I think I was really down. I was kind of I don't know what's gonna happen, if I'll be able to keep shadowing at the studio or keep doing what I wanted to do. Sometimes you have these things in your mind, these plans, and you just think that's the only way because it's just what you planned on in your mind, or not planned, but just assumed in your mind it was going to work out. So COVID definitely, for me, the lesson it taught me is you can't bank too much on the future or even the next couple weeks, or have so much, or be super super confident for the next 2 weeks. You got to plan today or tomorrow, very very close dates versus oh, next year I'll just do that. I'm just gonna do what I wanted for so long next year. I used to do that all the time. In the beginning of college, I was oh, next year, 2 years.
Yes, exactly.
And that doesn't work. It doesn't. I'm sure you can attest to that too. You can say that all you want, and then it doesn't work.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can attest to that when it comes to me trying to release music.
Literally same.
Literally same. Because
yeah,
it's it just kind of forces you to put everything into perspective. I mean, for me personally, like you were saying, I was going to Boom Room on a consistent basis, and I think I was going there every Friday, whether or not they needed me there, and not just be there. And COVID hit, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna be home for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks turn to 1 month, and 1 month turn to 3 months, and 3 months turn to 6 months. And I mean, as I said, I was doing this, live mixing thing, and that was a really awesome experience, and I was learning a lot because it was so funny how that kind of came about, because the thing about it is I had no experience. I had no experience doing a live event, and they just dropped me there. And I mean, of course I've made a few hiccups and stuff like that, but for the most part I feel like I was getting extremely comfortable with it. And then COVID hit. But then the funny thing about it is a lot of other interesting opportunities came up, because I feel like, I don't know, the way that the industry looks now, I think the way it looks in terms of virtual concerts, virtual concerts, just releasing things on your own, doing your own thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an aspect that's kind of gonna stay. I
Totally, I
don't,
agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know when's the next time we're gonna be able to go to a concert. I really
I
don't.
know, but they've been doing these crazy things. I don't know if you've seen, like at Citizens Bank, their Bank Park, they were having like outdoor. I haven't gone to them, but they're doing like these drop. Back in the like I mean, I guess the 50s or whatever when they did like drive through or drive
Oh
in
yeah, yeah.
or what do you call it? Like I've never
Drive
experienced it before. Drive through movie theater or sit in or something?
drive-in theaters, I think.
Drive it. So they're doing drive-in concerts now.
Oh wow.
I don't know if you saw like the VMAs where they were like, it was Kiki Palmer or somebody. One of them was doing like a
Yeah.
performance, or a couple of them outdoors in like Manhattan, and they had like cars like all lined up front, kind of representing like this new age of like everyone's being in their respective cars, but you could still go to a concert. Which I don't know if I love that, but
I don't
I don't know.
know. It's so crazy, like, cause even I mean, last semester I was taking the art and business of recording with Jack and Phil. Shout out to Jack and Phil. They're really cool. And we would always, I guess, now and then have this conversation of like what is the long-term effect on the industry, on music in general, with this whole COVID thing. And safety is always like an important, everything, of course. But it's just very interesting when you think about it, like what exactly was normal and what exactly will be normal.
Yeah, what is deemed normal anymore? Because like you can't go back. Like we can't. I remember for a while in the beginning of quarantine, they're like, I can't wait till we can get back, and everyone was like, not gonna lie, like this is a lesson taught. Like we got to be more careful with safety, and even in the industry, I think we've talked about this too, like mental health or taking care of ourselves.
Yes,
It's a priority. Like if you can't, keep that under control, or not even just under control, just like take care of yourself. Everything else will just kind of like
tumble.
it kind of spiral out of control. So like I'm sure the music industry was kind of shook. They were like, ooh, we got to be more careful with if we plan to go back out again. There's no more playing games with like
yeah,
health or safety for all the like people coming.
oh no, definitely. And I mean it's just interesting to think about. I mean, I always wonder if like this will, or if like staying at home will kind of force this big push for like self-production, like artists, producing a bit more. And I don't know, what do you think about that?
I have been seeing a lot of artists, like even big artists, have been doing like these things where I don't know if they're quarantining with their teams, but like they'll be at one house and they're just like either an Airbnb or I guess maybe one of their houses, and there's just them in the house like 24/7, and they're producing like that. I think that's kind of cool. But the thing is, not all of us have the ability to just drop everything
Do that, yeah.
and do that, especially if we're going to work and make a living in that space at the beginning parts of our careers. But I think that might actually really be the future, because it seems like some of these new releases that came out yesterday, I was kind of like, I'm very into looking up how the production behind everything was, and it looked like most of these teams are working on it during quarantine too, like maybe like portions of the album, and people were just working in teams or producing on their own, mixing vocals, learning how to mix vocals on their own. Like artists are just learning how to mix vocals now, which is crazy because it's kind of it's not tough, but it's really tough if you're not sure. I'm still learning how to do it. It's like setting up a vocal chain that really works for each artist you're working with.
Yeah,
It's tough. I'm still, and there's only like a few artists that I'm like kind of working with, but you got to like really pay attention to how you're setting that up, because now that we're like self-producing, like you said, it's like you got to make sure you know what you're doing.
It's very interesting in terms of that. Like people are starting to like record themselves a bit more, mix stuff. I don't know how people are doing like in terms of mastering things, but like even like you can like sign up for this service and like it can mix it for you.
I forgot what it's called, but Lander or something. I don't know if it's like you can. It kind of goes through the whole process for you. It's kind of like an algorithm or whatever, which is kind of wild. It's another question we probably could talk about, like more with the need for engineers and like obviously like we're gonna agree that there is, because that's like our field.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's like a certain like part of it that you just can't replace.
Yeah.
How do you like? What do you think with like more like technology and more like things just to be able to create music without much people involved?
Yeah, um I feel like that's a good mindset to have if you're like just starting out. But then again, I don't know because who was it? I think it was Joe. Shout out to Joe from Temple. Um, he always said like you can kind of go through, the writing, the recording, even the mixing aspect of the creative process by yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
then I there's a need to have someone else
Yeah.
to, you know, I don't want to say counter what your creative aspect is, but just to give you a different perspective.
Good point.
Um,
Yeah.
it's definitely, I feel like it's definitely needed. I don't think it's, I don't want to say safe, but I don't think you should release something without at least one other person hearing it first. And yeah, I honestly don't think that, Lander, as cool as it is, I don't think it'll ever like massively replace the need for an engineer because there's nothing. I mean, you can program, a program to, do,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to, but there's something about, someone who's worked their way from the top, who's listened to numerous things and knows what sounds good. Um, but yeah, I do think those things are definitely needed because if anything, you could probably learn from those programs. Like they'll probably show you like, how to EQ the whole song and like
Mm-hmm.
compression and stuff like that. So if anything, maybe people are learning from that and then, later on they can do it themselves. So
Yeah, it's like you got to work with technology, not against it, but also don't let it take
yeah,
over. It's
exactly.
like we should be the ones controlling it and,
Yeah.
and taking care of it and letting it help us in spaces we need. Like obviously, we wouldn't be where we are today without like half of the technology. Like in terms of
Hmm.
being able to get better as a producer and engineer, or make it as an engineer. It's definitely like credit to a lot of technology because like
Oh
at one
yeah.
point it was just straight up tape or fully analog,
Hey,
and like it was a very
exactly.
selective amount of engineers that like made it, or at least like had consistent paying gigs. Like now you probably, if you really work at your craft and you're on the right people, you can like make a living as it, which is why I'm like putting more effort, and like not the reason why, but I'm just like I feel more confident. And that's like shout out to basically everyone that's like fought for engineers and producers to have more like rights when it comes to music, like
Oh yeah.
credit or royalties or whatever. Like uh people had no clue who engineers were. People still don't know what they are.
Oh no.
I have friends that are like, "You're an engineer? I thought you were in music." And I was like,
I am
most Indians are like
both.
most Indians or people in my family are like engineers, doctors, or nurses, which is our
Oh
amazing
yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
Amazing thing. But people are like, "Wait, you're an engineer? I thought you said you're like in music and all this stuff." And I was like, "I'm like a honorary engineer in music or whatever."
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe we can even go into that a little bit, like, you know, the fight for, the people behind the scenes to
Mm-hmm.
get the credit that's, due. It's been an uphill battle, but I feel like we're getting there in terms of, because I mean, you have the artist and then you have the big name producer and stuff like that, but there are other people part of the project too.
Yeah, like, and for us, we're like kind of like, I want to keep mentioning for me, like, I'm still like learning, I'm still growing, and I'm very new. There's so many people that I've like who've been at the game for like potentially 2 decades or a decade or so, and they're still learning, and a lot of them haven't like made it yet, but they're so capable and they had so many credits, they just don't get like in the industry. It's all about like your name on stuff, like to be able to get somewhere. So like,
Yeah.
for example, like Beyonce, like if you see her team, she usually works with the same amount of people, and you might only know about them because you keep like she's really good with like giving credit to those producers and engineers. But
Hmm.
like a lot of artists are still learning how to like give up a little bit of that, like, hey, this is my engineer, they played a huge role in like,
Hmm.
not that people are trying to force artists to do that, but you're noticing, I don't know if you're noticing, I've been seeing a lot more engineer name drops here and there, or like producer name drops,
Yeah.
and producers are becoming the celebrities as well. Not
Oh
that
yeah.
that's like the goal necessarily,
Hmm.
but there's names we can say now, like DJ Khaled, like
Yeah.
mega name producer. Now he's like signed too as a producer,
Yeah.
or
That's so crazy.
countless other people.
Hmm.
So yeah, to kind of like talk about that, it's just kind of like engineers specifically. I mean, with engineers and producers, engineers play like a huge role in just
Huge
things
role.
sounding good.
Oh yeah,
Straight
definitely. I
up.
mean, the technological aspect of making music, I feel, is not really talked about as much,
Hmm.
but it's extremely important.
Yeah.
But I actually want to ask you about like what you just mentioned. What do you think about the engineer kind of becoming
Oh, that's good.
like
I mean, I think it's kind of it's not funny, but it's like really interesting. Like, I've been seeing Twitch pop up now more, and the engineers are doing like these live mixing sessions.
yes,
It's
yeah,
so crazy because now it makes me like slightly not anxious, but I'm like, wow, everyone can potentially be, which is actually great. I think anyone can be an engineer and can mix their work and feel comfortable about it. But also on the other side, anyone can be an engineer, which, like,
yes,
and like for us, we are like, for me, I'm like, still, I would consider myself learning. So like, I always reiterate that because I'm not like, because when I talk, I'm not like as a 3-time Grammy Award
same, same.
nominated, but being
One
around those
day,
dope people, right? Let's speak it into existence. Like,
yes,
let's go. Got to do it. But
yeah,
being around those people who may have won a Grammy or may have, they'll even say like that didn't like solidify their career. Like they're still hustling and they're still working.
hmm,
Um, so a lot of engineers aren't celebrities. I mean, there's probably a handful I can kind of count that I'm like, oh, I know this engineer. Because they're always active on social media.
yeah.
They created websites, pages, YouTube channels, which is another way to monetize your skill set into like different avenues. I'm still working on that because it's like it's a lot to do because you have to
Same.
keep working at it. Because if you stop, everyone's like, well, they're done.
Yeah, they're done.
Like
Oh
social
yeah,
media like drags people these days, and that's something too to talk about. Like when you're in the creative field
exactly. Yes.
for a second, everyone's like, like what's she up to, or what
What
is
are
she?
you up to? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
I don't
Yeah.
know you. Like, how do you feel about engineers, or like it's not? It is way more competitive now for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like I think it's a good thing, like people getting their dues, and I think it's also opening more to educating people about like what an engineer actually is when it comes to music and the necessity for them. Um, I just hope it doesn't get to any people's heads, but
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this a lot too, because I remember we were in this discussion with Music Biz about representation as engineers
yes,
and producers, but specifically engineers, because you just really don't see that many women engineering specifically.
hmm,
Um, like that journey for people to have done it before us, like I can't even like for us, it's in some ways difficult, but we've had it a slightly easier process because of them.
oh yeah.
So like, how do you feel about like where we're headed for people like us in these spaces, or people like you yourself in the spaces to like get better and progress and potentially work on bigger projects? Like, what has it been like for you seeing that?
I feel like it's very promising. The future, uh, that's for us because, like you said, we've there have been some uphills, but we've definitely are working on the foundation that's the women and producers before us that
Mhm.
have made, um, and I think it's just continuing that legacy of really you know making a path for people because that's one of the things that I feel is extremely important when it comes to art. And you've mentioned this, like you know, not holding or withholding, the information, the knowledge, the skills. It's just a matter of sharing. And the cool thing about it is actually, I feel like that mindset is becoming more mainstream because I feel like
Like weird
in
sounds. Sorry. This is like how it is right now.
no, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm literally in between the
I should have done
corners.
that. I'm kind of like I have this weird like robe thing. You're able
No.
to look into my. I have like a little like I have some stuff happening there, but
I
I'm
mean,
not.
you got some nice equipment. I mean,
Thank you. It's just some stuff.
yeah. But
But
like,
sorry, keep going. It was just like
no,
this.
no, you see me in the corner. Like, this is the only good, like, I mean, not to say the only good spot, but like, this is one of the better spots in my room. But yeah, I mean, like just going off of what you said earlier, just like, you know, not withholding the knowledge and the collaborative spirit. I mean, we've talked about Beyonce, and I love her so much. But like,
Right.
one of the things that I feel like not too many people look at is, for me personally as an artist, I respect her, you know, because of her music and her skill set and all the other stuff. But from like a behind the scenes aspect, she is, people don't give her tens like
Mm-hmm.
in that aspect. Like, I mean, just looking at like her last, you know, visual album, Black is King, collaborating.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And you saw
So
the credit list. She didn't miss
yeah,
anyone.
nobody,
With that
nobody.
on that screen for a minute. Like I like
Yes,
people usually would turn off credits, but I was like, I'm letting that roll
I'm
till
letting it roll.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the the capacity to do that too, because you just don't have to want that. You have to like can you imagine just like the hours of like
Yeah.
scrolling through documents of like, you know, what this has to look like, what this has to sound like, what location we have to go to
And
in
finding
order.
people to work.
Exactly, yeah. So I mean, there's definitely, you know, work that has to be done in order to, you know, put on that collaborative spirit, but it's definitely not impossible. And it definitely shows, you know, how beneficial it is to pushing the art forward. Um, but yeah, I'm just like really excited about like the communities that we're building in music. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I think I mean, with these times just being there's so many intersectional like movements happening like overall.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be really like scary or it can make us feel really like stressed or anxious. I think but we like that idea, the collaborative spirit, or we're always reaching out to people and not like, you know, not being silent on issues or not just like holding just in general, just like always sharing what you know, being patient with people, figuring out how you can do better. It's just like that's why I love music. Like it's like a natural way of doing that. Like it's a
Yeah.
natural ability for us to like when we express ourselves that way or connect with someone who's so different from us with music or with art. So like that's why all these dope projects are being made. It's like people are expressing the pain or maybe the joy they have, but it's like it's all through music or through art or through some avenue that's like gives them some sort of peace or like hope. So that's why, you know, those are the things that gives us hope as being people in the industry. I'm sure for you yourself, like
Yeah.
being home, we're both talking about earlier, we're just like stuck at home, like or like doing classes, Zoom university.
Zoom class, Zoom
Literally.
University. Everybody's enrolled.
Everyone's in the same university right now. That's Zoom
Yes,
university.
especially everybody at Temple, considering that they told
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
classes for the rest of the semester.
I know it's crazy.
Oh
But
man, yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, I mean,
Thank you so much, Becky, for coming on the show. Could you tell everybody really quickly where they can find you on the socials?
yeah, thank you, T, so much. I love what you're doing. First of all, that's just everything you're doing to make the industry more inclusive, better, and more helping you express yourself through your music. Has always been fun, like both of us collaborating on stuff.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see what you do.
Excited
But
to see
if
what
you
you do
want to
too.
find me, which is weird, it's like if you want to find me, I'm on Instagram, always kind of posting some not things I'm learning or music I'm kind of working on.
Posting some dope stuff.
Oh, thank you. Both of us have to release something at some point after this.
One of
But
these days.
I guess you can find me at Instagram at Becky Mathai. There's nothing much. Like I'm not on like a ton of platforms, but yeah, mainly Instagram. Hopefully some music comes out soon. And I'm always looking for people to work with, to mix or produce with. So always hit me up. Anyone can hit me up for that.
Cool. So yeah, this has been Tea with Tea with Teyanna and Becky. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.